Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Runner. We've covered some of this week's Marvel books and some of this and last week's DC books. And moving on, we'll be covering in this video this week's Death of Doctor Strange tie-ins, Fear State tie-ins, as well as Batman: The Long Halloween special. Kicking things off, we've got Death of Doctor Strange: The Avengers. So, where we left off with Death of Doctor Strange, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Thor, and Iron Man had met the villains of the story, the Three Mothers. It was not a meeting that went well for the Avengers. So the issue begins with a flashback to the founding of the Illuminati in Wakanda. Iron Man and Doctor Strange are talking, with Iron Man being very clear that he's not in favor of Strange being in their little group, because he feels he can't trust Doctor Strange because he can't trust magic. He was only invited because Black Panther does trust him. So, in the present, we see a group of interesting-looking individuals traipsing through the Florida Everglades to the Nexus of Realities with a nuke, which they plan to use to blow up the Nexus. So, as it's being set, however, what appears to be the Juggernaut comes out of the Nexus portal. Inside, back at Tony Stark's brownstone, after the fight with the Three Mothers, Tony's showering and making sure that there's no xenobiological material inside the armors, or himself, with one thought in his mind constantly: drink. But the Avengers are trying to figure out what to do. Captain Marvel even says something one of them stuck with her about there being such magic. Meanwhile, it appears Phoenix, Namor, and Black Panther, that's quite the interesting combination there, at least those first two, are in Antarctica dealing with the migrant mystical kingdoms. But there is a disturbance in the Florida Everglades, and well, the Captains America and Marvel and Iron Man are the closest to check it out. So, the initial plan is that Carol suggests that Iron Man not be sent, as he seems to need some time to deal with what's happened. But Tony disagrees, saying all he needs is a grilled cheese sandwich and a couple Tylenol. So they head down to the Everglades, and the first thing they find is the nuke, as well as those who were carrying the nuke. But they kind of get the idea that maybe this wasn't an attack, just wrong place, wrong time. They weren't attacked, it's just that they were in someone's way. But there's a news report apparently stating that the Juggernaut is in downtown Miami. But apparently they're getting reports of there being multiple Juggernauts. However, Iron Man has to leave the armor, but while in the midst of defusing the nuke, a centipede gets under one of the seams, and so Tony's ejected by the clamshell protocol. But there do appear to these juggernauts. That's lovely. Face off with the Avengers, but turn out to be nothing more than soulless automatons, which they shatter and then are promptly reformed. They seem to be defending a tower in Miami. So Iron Man goes through the portal. I didn't get it. We're going to have to replace this, that's for damn sure. And, well, for one thing, he sees some seriously weird stuff. And he also sees a young girl lying in a portal. So he goes through the portal. The girl seems to be alive, but the portal is the Cytorax realm. But during one of the attacks of the Juggernaut drones, Thor is temporarily deafened. But everything, the girl that Iron Man found kind of explains what the deal is. She's a child of Satorak, and the three mothers laid waste to Satorak's realm. She did what she could, using with the Crimson Bands, which she could control. Satorak has abandoned his throne, however, and, well, the three mothers laid waste to the realm. The tower is so that their story is not forgotten. But the bomb goes off. Tony goes back to the portal, makes his way to Miami, and stops the destruction of the tower, and explaining why. And so, everyone on Earth is psionically informed of the fall of Cytorax realm. That is where the issue ends. Yeah, we're going to be getting another copy of this. That's, yeah. Moving on to our next book, we've got Strange Academy Presents The Death of Doctor Strange. So, Strange Academy is an ongoing series from Marvel, focusing on a boarding school for mystically inclined youths. Not necessarily from this dimension either. Anyway, we have a primary story focusing on Eirik and Alvi, the twin sons of the Enchantress. But in light of Doctor Strange's death, the Academy is suspending classes and sending everyone home temporarily. We begin with a flashback, however. Doctor Strange and Enchantress fighting off a wizard from Weird World. The wizard Pulsari. And so however, while in the midst of all the students getting ready to leave, Pulsari, no longer turned to stone, kidnaps Eirik. Eirik gets a hold of their mother, and he and his mother have dinner together. He tells her what's happened. He has not had the highest. Eirik and Alvi do not have the highest opinion of their mother. And because she wasn't exactly, there. But she does offer to help. And also states that she's been feeling a bit more motherly lately in reference to the events of the recent Captain Marvel story that took place over the course of issues 28 through 30. But they end up in Weird World. They get a map to Pulsari's castle. Turns out it's the home. He's taken over the home of one of Irik and Alvy's classmates, Toth. But Pulsari is draining the magical essence from Irik and figures that and Irik says, "Hey, you've only lived so much longer. Once I'm drained, I'm drained. That's that." But Pulsari already knows that Alvy's on his way, and well, he'll have another one to drain. So, but Alvy and Enchantress come upon a wizard slayer, and they convince her to help them. So they go after Pulsari, and the amulet that Pulsari is wearing, which kind of channels Irik's magical force, the chain on it is cut, and then the amulet itself is shattered, and so Irik's magic returns to him, and he is rejuvenated. Toth and his family retake their home, and all's well that ends well. The rest of the issue is kind of short one-shots with various students returning home. Desi returns to Limbo. Emily and Cat Beast return to what appears to be their suburban home. German, Calvin, looks like he'll be being placed in another home soon. Gus in Jotun, in the Arctic. He's a frost giant. Howie and Heidi, who are playing a co-op shooter of some type, with Heidi stating that she'll drop her weapon and come out in the game if Howie asks her out. So she shoots him in the game, and she asks what time Howie's going to pick her up. Toth is shown going for a swim in a lake that is overseen by Man-Thing. Doyle has returned to the Dark Realms. There's a mindless one that appears to be sentient, and Doyle, who asks Doyle why he has returned home, and Doyle simply states, mindless one knows who Doyle's father is, Dread Dormammu. Oh, and he's not home; he's in a cabin. But the mindless one tells Doyle that he knows Doyle's father. Doyle's father is bad to mindless ones. Doyle is not his father, though. And finally, we've got Zoe, who is in the swamps, as she puts it, while texting Desi, having a chance to fully be herself. And that is where the issue ends. It's a fun little one-shot. The bulk of it really was just the story with Enchantress and her twins. But yeah, good. To be fair, they kind of had to have a Strange Academy tie-in to Death of Doctor Strange. There was no way around it. Especially because I think that was really the one book where he was like a regular character at the moment. But yeah, moving on to our next book, we're now covering this month's Fear State books, starting with last week's Detective Comics number 1044, where we left off. During an assault on City Hall, Batman and the mayor ended up in Gotham sewers. An explosion rocked the sewers, and dropped the two of them an additional 20 feet, where Mayor Nakano discovered a clutch of eggs of the vile parasite. So, we open with Deb Donovan and her trying to get information on the sanitation who's getting the sanitation contracts in Gotham. With her source saying that he heard it was the Penguins guys, which Deb does not. Deb rightfully thinks that's a bad thing because, well, when you've got organized criminals, organized crime lords taking, handling that, who knows what's going to go down, what's going to run down the drain. In the sewers, Batman is talking to Oracle while trying to find Nakano. But the Peacekeepers are trying to retake City Hall from the hands of Nero the 19th and his men. Batwoman shows up and takes down Nero and his men, though, promptly and quickly. During everything, Batman has managed to track the mayor, but there's a big chunk of concrete between the two of them. However, Batman sees one of the vile parasites, talks to the mayor, tries to say, "Hey, look, we have to work together." And Nakano understandably does not want to. He doesn't trust Batman. He blames Batman for the death of his partner during the Joker War. This is actually what happened back in Detective 1027, which we did cover. But the eggs are hatching. One of the parasites goes after Nakano, burrowing into his skin. Batman tells him, you got to do something, you got to take care of it, and well, now there's more of them. Nakano hits his hand with a rock, but more are coming, and so Batman fires basically fires a taser at the water that they're in, which does take care of the parasites, and leaves the mayor unconscious. And so Batman does what he can to revive the mayor, while the rest of the parasites brim up through some of the storm drains. Our backup story is a tale entitled Foundation Part 1. Apparently this is setting up a story that's going to be happening largely after Fear State. Starts with a flashback to the construction of Arkham Asylum, but the remains of Arkham Asylum are being turned into Arkham Tower. Bruce Wayne is very much against the idea of keeping the Arkham name and honoring the legacy of Arkham. That's really the only problem he really had with it is, we call it Arkham, it's going to continue to have that same connotation it's always had. But while Nakano and Bruce argue about this, someone comes up claiming the city's mad and that they don't know what they've unleashed. That said, some of the workers working on the Arkham Tower construction site, which used to be Safe Headquarters, which was overseen by Hugo Strange, well, some of them don't like working the night. They're one of the, hearing weird things, but turns out one of them seems to be doing the same thing as the original builder of Arkham Asylum, smashing his head into a window and then attacking his co-workers. However, before he can do any real damage to his co-workers, Batman shows up. that is where the issue ends. The DC previews have had, or the DC Connect of what for last, I think they came out last month or month. The one that came out for December's book started to talk about the Arkham Tower story, so that's going to be a big thing coming up. And in fact, it's so far seeming to it seems like it's going to be rather polarizing for the Bat family. But so it should be it's nice to get on the one hand, I really wish that maybe Foundation could be a one-off issue of Detective after Fear State, or even after Fear State's Fallout, or in some kind of one-shot. Basically, just the fact that they're basically building up the story already with, in the middle of the annual Bat Family cross. There's something that comes up quite a bit called event fatigue, and not every story has to be the big, huge story. Sometimes you can just have a small story. You can have small stories for a while, but whatever. It's an interesting story so far, though, so I'll at least grant it that. But anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Harley Quinn #8. It's also a holdover from last week. Now, Harley Quinn, A story largely picks up after last month's issue of Catwoman. Okay, technically it takes place after this month's issue of upcoming issue of Catwoman, but yeah. Harley and the gardener popped up in Alleytown to get the ivy seed that apparently Selena has. The idea being to make Ivy whole, Queen Ivy whole, as Queen Ivy appears to simply be only part of Ivy. So the issue begins with Kevin talking about himself, how people have life-changing experiences every day, skydiving, getting a new job, becoming a parent. Apparently, a guy he went to school with claimed to have a near-death experience and said he saw the ghost of Abraham Lincoln, which led to him starting a cult. So that was a whole thing. But the point is that one moment can change your entire life. And for Kevin, that one moment was meeting Harley Quinn. But he's suiting up to kind of take care of things and workout clothes, a hockey stick, football pads, yeah. He's trying to, protect the city, but yeah. But he runs into, I think it's supposed to be Bluebird, actually, being attacked by peacekeeper drones. Kevin tries to, Kevin basically ends up being a good distraction for presumably Bluebird, to take on the drones. Meanwhile, Harley is reunited, I guess, with the Ivy Seed. It's a much warmer reunion than her reunion with Queen Ivy. However, before they can leave, Keepsake shows up. But we get a bit of a flashback to what Harley guides us through a flashback of what's been going on in both her book and Catwoman's book for when it comes to Ivy. But yeah, Keepsake has his own team of knockoffs, the Caucus of Corruption. That's literally what he calls it. Sage Swine, Sword Lady, Polyphonist, Blaine, exclamation, and fellow frigid. Yeah, they don't want none of them take him seriously. Catwoman makes a crack about how she's pretty sure Sword Lady's wearing one of her old outfits, but Harley is left to deal with Blaine, who is a Bane knockoff, but the Ivy Seed helps. They take the mask off of Blaine, and Harley realizes that everyone, that the people, the caucus of corruption is made up of people have been mind controlled with Mad Hatter tech. But I think I'm kind of just going with the idea that Kevin ran into Bluebird, but she explains that she has a digital readout on her phone of the city with all the water lines clearly marked, and she's been checking them all night. She doesn't believe the toxins in the air, so if Scarecrow is feeding toxins into the city, the water line's in the best way, but so far, nothing. And then, but Kevin and her just see the safe tower. It's apparently on fire as Hugo Strange is destroying all the evidence of what he was up to in there. And by destroying all the evidence, I also mean the people he was working with. And so does he. And so, still dressed as Batman, Hugo Strange leaves the burning tower. But this is why I'm kind of not entirely sure it's Bluebird, because I feel like her being a member of the Bat family of sorts, she'd be much more willing to go and to go help people. But she kind of tells Kevin that you can't help her. Yeah, they're doing it, but we can't help them. But Kevin decides that's exactly what he's going to do. Well, and as the fight against the caucus of corruption continues, Harley opts to take the Ivy Seed back to Eden, which is where the issue ends. Good issue. So issue 7 kind of didn't feel like it meshed too well with the previous issue of Catwoman or any of the earlier Fear State issues of Batman. This, however, actually, I'm not going to say it does click with the events of the Catwoman story. It actually feels like it's truly a part of Fear State. Which brings us to our next book, Batman number 116. From this week, not last week. So, where we left off, Simon Saint had decided to make Poison Ivy his new scapegoat and sent peacekeepers into Eden. Ghostmaker does what he can to stop them, which is actually quite a bit. Meanwhile, Miracle Molly is trying to track the Sanity Collector's mind machine, which seems to have been stolen by Scarecrow. It should also be noted that down in Eden, Queen Ivy is very much considering bringing the city down into the caves, as her tendrils, I guess, are throughout the bedrock of the city. Master Wise is trying to convince her not to, but it's really not working. While tracking down Scarecrow, Molly and Batman feel a slight earthquake. But and he realizes that's likely what's about to happen. But turns out that Scarecrow, with basically having made modifications to the mind machine, is able to induce a severe degree of trauma that was in the mind machine, like he's doing to Peacekeeper-01, to Molly as well. Batman takes Molly and follows Scarecrow to his underground lab. He's able to get rid of the device, and Peacekeeper-01, in fact, shoots Scarecrow. Not sure. It ends up not being fatal, but yeah, Peacekeeper-01 has decided to buy into the everything, and but Molly has to has to unmodify the machine so they can fix everything. However, Peacekeeper-01, he hasn't just drank the Kool-Aid. He chugged it, asked for seconds, thirds, tenths, 30ths, you get the idea. He's all in. And he goes after Batman. And so you get a fight between Batman and Peacekeeper-01 while Miracle Molly is able to, at least somewhat, unmodify the memory machine. Though it doesn't seem like Scarecrow's entirely willing to help her. In Eden, as I mentioned, Ivy's not too happy with the idea of, listening to men like Master Wise ever again. However, Harley shows up with the Ivy seed and suggests that maybe Queen Ivy might listen to herself. Then a story, so far so good. It's the core story it's the core part of the story. Our B story is Batgirls. Set It Off, part 2 of 3. Part 1, Cassandra Cain had been falsely accused of murder, a false video and everything. It was being circulated. The magistrate was after her, so yeah. But spoiler helped her. The false video was made by Seer, but yeah, the magistrate is informed that the Batgirls terrorist cell is operating from the historic Gotham clock tower, and so because of this, the magistrate has full ability to use whatever force is necessary to stop the terrorists. It's heavily implied that this message from Simon Saint is not from Saint himself, but rather from Seer. But yeah, the clock tower is brought down. The Batgirls escape because, well, yeah, they're awesome like that. The magistrate tries to say that no, the Batgirls, they blew up the clock tower, not us. But there are more than people who were there that aren't part of the magistrate to say, yeah, no, that's not what happened. But yeah. Cassandra and Stephanie are trying to figure out what to do. Though Seer is watching. That is where the issue ends. In part, it should be noted that the Batgirls backup is largely setting up the upcoming Batgirls ongoing, which is fun, which is great. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, but I feel bad that Cass and Stephanie are relegated to just having a 3-part backup story throughout Fear State rather than being involved in any of the main stuff, but Batwoman got an Urban Knight story and an appearance in an issue of Batman. So, what are you gonna do? Moving on to our next book, we've got Arkham City: Order of the World #2. Where we left off, Dr. Jocasta Joy was trying to help the GCPD track down the Arkham escapees, those who survived 8A. However, it turns out that she is secretly harboring one of them, the Ten-Eyed Man, who performed a rather odd and gruesome ritual. It should also be noted that the Mad Hatter possibly accidentally, possibly not accidentally, fried the brains of a handful of people, and maybe there's someone out there eating babies. This led to this, plus all the paranoia induced by Seer and Scarecrow, led to a man generally wrapped in bandages getting beaten near half to death in Gotham City. Elsewhere in the city, the guy shows up at his old drug dealer to buy, I'll buy what you got. Well, it turns out the guy's no longer dealing drugs. Instead, he's got something better. Guy by the name X. Fought Superman one time. All you gotta do is touch him. Greatest high you'll ever have. But because of the press having gotten hold of the story about the Hatter frying brains of a handful of people, there's also a write-up on Dr. Joy, referring to her as the Doctor of 1,000 Maniacs. Nice little nod to the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I might add. But the Ten-Eyed Man is trying to track down the ghost of Arkham, it turns out. That's what the ritual is for. Elsewhere, Azrael is trying to deal with, a lot of stuff. It's Azrael. Sanity and Azrael, they don't have the best relationship. I'll just put it that way. But he thinks he's been given a vision of an angel and directed on a path. But the Ten-Eyed Man is on top of a building, and he's taking a map, and basically got Arkham and the city are one and the same. Though Dr. Joy thinks he's full of shit. But Dr. Joy calls her the detective she's been working with, and explains that, in Gotham's Bowery, there appears to be, in one of the buildings there, it seems X is being held there by someone. So the guy comes back to touch X again. Azrael's watching, though. Goes in, frees X. Detective gets grazed in the face. Azrael shows up, tracks down X, and beats the holy hell out of him, while the detective is left unconscious on the ground. But Joy notes that Stone is in the hospital, and she had to give a statement about it because she was the last person he talked to. But it doesn't feel like anyone thinks she's involved. Because everyone kind of seemed to it was a formality, and everyone seemed embarrassed by even talking to her about it. But it appears that X's map, basically redrawing the map of Arkham over the map of Gotham, actually makes sense. But some of the other escapees are shown. Dr. Phosphorus, I think Professor Pig. Though it turns out that Azrael's received yet another sign for someone else to go after. Dr. Joy. Yeah, this has been an interesting series thus far. It'll be it'll be wrapping up after our Fear State's over with. It'll be interesting to see how that all works out. And I think it's actually going to be wrapping up with a tie into the Arkham Tower stuff. If I may be wrong. Now on to our last one for the moment. Batman: The Long Halloween Special. So, quick confession. I've never read The Long Halloween. I know the basic story. I know the elements of it were borrowed for The Dark Knight. But, yeah. Never actually read it. So, turns out that Calendar Man is going after jewelry, jewels, gemstones. Batman takes down his thugs. Turns out that the gemstones he's over birthstones. But Gordon mentions that he misses Harvey Dent, and the three of them all working together. And wants to know if maybe his niece Barbara might, who was mentioned she's interested in doing so, if Batman would allow Robin to trick or treat with her. But Harvey's in the sewer. The place the little lecture room he's hiding in is being guarded by Solomon Grundy. When Gilda Dent, Two-Face's his girlfriend, shows up. If I remember correctly, she is the Holiday Killer. But with Batman trying to figure out what Calendar Man's plan is, well, it's suggested by Alfred that maybe two heads are better than one. However, Batman doesn't think Robin's ready yet. Keep in mind, this is like year 1, year 2 era Batman. Turns out Calendar Man's got disciples, and he kills a couple of them. But turns out that Harvey's bought his and Gilda's old house. And so the two of them are having dinner there on Halloween when Calendar Man shows up, takes Gilda prisoner, and yeah. But Robin goes to trick or treating with Babs, while the bat signal has been half painted over by Two-Face. And he's telling Batman everything he knows. And Batman says, this will be done my way. You don't, you will not be allowed to kill Julian Day. Two-Face agrees. But Robin sees the bat signal and, well, he's going to go. So Babs takes his candy. But Calendar Man confronts Gilda about having been the Holiday Killer. Two-Face shows up, dressed to be one of Calendar Man's acolytes. They have a heist planned. Gotham Museum apparently has, until the next day, the most left red diamond. It'll be returned to South Africa the very next day. So, but Calendar Man and his henchmen drop calendar pages of, say, October 31st throughout the room. Confuses the sensors, and it covers any footprints. But Robin shows up, starts knocking out the various grabs the diamond, knocks out Calendar Man's henchman, and it's revealed that Two-Face was never actually there, but rather it was Batman masquerading as Two-Face. At Calendar Man's hideout, Two-Face and Grundy show up to rescue Gilda. But, yeah. Harvey is being his normal lethal self. However, there was a bomb left there. The idea was that Calendar Man was going to kill the Holiday Killer and Two-Face all at once. Not anticipating Grundy, however, who takes the bomb and lets it explode in his arms, because, well, he'll be back. Batman beats the holy hell out of Calendar Man, and who also gives a story about how he was an orphan, so no holidays ever. Robin watches it. He didn't realize he was he was an orphan, but Batman asks, was he? And Batman narrates that, Robin is an orphan. He's an orphan. That doesn't give them the right to commit crimes that coincide with the calendar. Robin is young. He'll learn. But, Two-Face and Gilda row off and elsewhere, with Batman explaining that Gilda's not going to change Harvey back to Two-Face back to Harvey. She just sees Harvey, and that makes them both dangerous. And that is where the issue ends. Seems like this is kind of set between, I would say, Long Halloween and Dark Victory. One of these days, I will likely read those and kind of maybe even do videos talking about, kind of going over Long Halloween, Dark Victory, re-going over this, and so forth. But anyway, that's going to do it for now. One thing I will say about the Long Halloween is that it definitely has got my interest is even to read that is even more peaked than it was previously. But yeah, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.